My name is Sarah from Lothian and welcome to Monster Things. And this week I'm sitting in my exhibition for my new book, Guerrilla Kindness and Other Acts of Creative Resistance. And so there's an exhibition going on at the moment and I've put up all the items from the book itself. And I am sitting in the gallery and I thought while I'm sitting in the gallery I might as well be making something since I'm surrounded by craft. And so today I'm going to make a Skull and Crossbones Wagga quilt. So, little background. This was one of my favourite books as a kid. It's How to Be a Witch. So you've got the kind of house that you should have as a witch. You've got things that you can make, like knee bones and dubious trifles, sorted savouries. These are cheese bones. And I always wanted to make these recipes as a kid, but I never did. So as an adult, I made the cheese bones just recently and they're really tasty. Gardening hints, all sorts of things. But there's also a whole crafts chapter, which is awesome. Like there's knitting patterns for a Skull and Crossbones hat, tapestry, stenciling stuff. But just recently I was looking through this book because I bought it again from an op shop and I found this. So every chapter heading has a picture and this, the witches in the hobbies and craft, are making a quilt. Look at that Skull and Crossbones quilt. That's amazing. So it doesn't have the instructions for this quilt, but I decided that I really wanted to make it. So I figured out how to do it and so I'm going to make it in a Wagga style quilt. Let me tell you about Waggas. So Waggas are an Australian historic style of quilting that you can see behind me here, that's made up of suit samples. It comes from the Depression era, like the 20s and 30s, and what would happen is suit salesmen would come door to door, show people samples of the fabric that they had so that people could order suits. And canny housewives would ask them for last year's suit fabric sample books because the salesmen were no longer selling that stuff, but it was good quality linen and wool, and so the housewives would make quilts out of it. So this is a Wagga quilt behind me and I made this one for my book. It's called Suit of Hearts. It's made of suit sample material and then some jacket fabric as well. And how I got it was I emailed my local tailor and asked them if they had any suit sample books that they weren't using anymore. Turns out they had hundreds and nobody wants them. And so today I'm going to make the Skull and Crossbones quilt, I'm also going to call it the Witches Wagga. Here we go. I'm so excited about this. So there are two blocks that makes this quilt. One is the skull and one is the crossbones. The skull block is in 6cm squares or 2 3/8 of an inch square. I'm using navy and white because I've got lots of navy suiting materials. You need 14 white, you need 7 navy, and you need 4 half square triangles. Now I've cut out all the squares, so now I'm just going to chain the half square triangles, trim them up, and we're going to put it together. So let's start laying out our skull. That's awesome! Now in the original, it had quite a complicated mouth thing going on and I didn't really want to do that. So in mine, what I'm going to do is make stitching lines to make the teeth. So now that I've got it laid out, I'm going to sew these ones first, and then I'll have a row, and these ones, and then I'll have another row, and then sew the row to the row. And then I'm going to continue on until we have a skull. And now we have our little skull rows sewn. Let's go ahead and sew them up. So that's the skull done. It just needs an iron and we're done. People also think that you should iron each time you sew stuff together, but who's got time for that? Don't worry about all the threads. You can cut those off later. So the bones block are 5cm squares or 2-inch squares and there's 6 across.
So you'll need 16 white squares, 12 navy squares and 8 half square triangles.
Alright, so the bones are laid out like this. And one of the things I love about this block is that if you're like me and sometimes your stitching results in less than straight edges, you can square it up really easily and you don't really lose any of the pattern. Straight. Now you have your skull, and now you have your crossbones. Ah, how great are they? So I'm going to put a 2-inch border around them to separate the designs, because I think if I just stitch them together they'll run together and they won't quite make sense. And all you need to do is just keep repeating until you've got your quilt big enough for whatever you want. I'm not here to dictate how big this quilt is, that's up to you to decide.